Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Carter Walker. I love talking about movies, music, comics, and games, and I just got out of Shazam 2, and I just wanted to talk about it, give some quick thoughts on it. Surprisingly, for a new DC superhero movie, I don't have a ton of thoughts on it, so let's get right into it. Some background context for this. I love the first Shazam. I think it's one of my probably favorite superhero movies. It probably might be one of the most, if not the most underrated superhero movie. It's got a ton of heart, some great action, it's a ton of fun, and manages to tell a really great story about a kid in the foster care system while also managing to provide like a lot of great humor and just a ton of fun, honestly. It's so much fun, and I always find myself going back to it and laughing and having a ton of fun, and I've just been repeating that over and over again, but that's like the best way to describe the first Shazam, honestly. And I honestly wasn't excited for this one. I loved the first one and I wanted a sequel to it, but watching the trailers, seeing the posters and everything, it just didn't find a way to captivate me. And walking into the movie, I had like little to no expectations, and they were met. Honestly, this movie is decent. It's an innocent, fun superhero flick, just a nice innocent superhero sequel. In the day and age that we're in, where everything is just so oversaturated in the superhero genre, you almost need to do something different or to stand out, and Shazam 2 just doesn't do that. I mean, if you're a fan of the first Shazam, you'll most likely like this one, but for me, it felt like a disappointment almost. I mean, it's not nearly as good as the first one. It's decent, it's watchable, but I had a fair amount of problems with it. So, starting right off with the positives, I think the best thing about this movie is just the action. It's a lot of fun seeing the whole Shazam family have all their powers and in action and, doing superhero stuff together. And the standout of this movie is easily Freddy. The movie is focused a lot on Billy and Freddy, and it kind of has two different storylines going on at once. And Freddy is wanting to break free of kind of Billy's stern rules and kind of just want to be himself and help people because, as a disabled kid, Freddy is like at his happiest when he has his powers. He's superhero. He can move freely. He can be who he always wanted to be. And I don't think that Billy gets that, and they do a great job of showing that in this movie and in the last one. And so I love, their relationship in this movie. It feels very great, very like genuine. There are a few lines here and there where, Jack Dylan Grazer is just like being the comic relief character to like a 11 on the dial, and it doesn't always work out, especially in a lot of the emotional scenes. There's a few lines that just are kind of taking me out of it, but for the most part, I thought he did a great job. He definitely carries the movie on his shoulders because you don't see a lot of Asher Angel. Billy Batson is 99% like Shazam in this movie. You really don't see Asher Angel a lot. I was surprised. But you see a ton of Jack Dylan Grazer, a ton of Adam Brody as like adult Freddy, and I really enjoyed that. I think they both do a great job, and most of the performances are really great, really strong, especially from the whole Shazam family. Even as kids, they feel pretty natural and normal, and then as adults, you can definitely see that, that's how they would act as adults, adults in kids' bodies. There is one performance that I wasn't too psyched about, and I'll get into that soon. But for the most part, they were pretty good. They were pretty enjoyable. This movie also has, another pretty good arc about family. I definitely think the first one's is a lot more impactful to the character of Billy. It's a lot more natural, and it is definitely a lot more heartfelt and emotional. But I did enjoy the arc that this one has, where Billy is just trying to fit in. He's trying to prove to himself and to everyone else that he deserves his powers. And I feel like this movie, wasn't as interested in Billy's arc as it is in maybe just showing destruction. But when it does focus on Billy's arc, I thought it was good. I liked Billy's arc a lot. I thought it worked out very well for him. Billy Batson is a very likable character, both as Asher Angel and as Zachary Levi. And I think David F. Sandberg, does a great job of directing his cast, directing the action, and mixing in a ton of fun, like, family stuff, along with, like, some absolutely gruesome stuff. The Shazam movies are, like, so much fun and so flashy and, like, jokey, and then all of a sudden someone's getting gruesomely murdered. And don't worry, there's a lot of that in this one as well. In case you were hoping for some gruesome murders, there's a lot of that in this. And it kind of reminds me of like the tone of the old 80s like Amblin movies like Gremlins or The Goonies. It reminded me of that, and it's pretty fun. I like that tone. I feel like it maybe could have been meshed a little bit better, but David F. Sandberg again just does a great job. And you can tell that he really has a lot of passion for the character of Shazam. And finally, my last like big positive is Dylan Grazer. I mentioned him before, but he really does carry the movie on his shoulders. The movie is primarily about him and Billy's relationship, and also his relationship with a new girl in school, Anne, and also how he deals with, losing his powers as it's revealed in the trailer. So I don't think that's as much of a spoiler, but there's a plot device in the movie where he loses his powers and he has to deal with becoming, the disabled kid again, and has to deal with finding the power within himself, as they refer to it in the movie. And I enjoyed it. I think that the movie overall is a solid 6 out of 10. I really just don't have a ton of thoughts about it. It's just another enjoyable superhero sequel. It doesn't do anything insane to reinvent the wheel. Doesn't do anything super special. It just, is more of the same, but to a lesser extent. And getting into the mix, I feel like Zachary Levi's performance is, again, just Asher Angel, 13 years old, but hyped up. He doesn't feel more mature. He doesn't feel anything like that until the third act, when he needs to be more mature, and then he, reverts back to not being mature. And I feel like it can clash with the tone a little bit, because you never really know how he's gonna act, how he's gonna say things, and the humor can be definitely very hit and miss in this movie. A lot of the one-liners just didn't do it for me. There are a couple great one-liners in this, just like the first Shazam, but sometimes it was just cringe-inducing, oh wow, they're really going there, huh? But I feel like some of the visual gags, some of the one-liners hit, but a lot of them did not. And Zachary Levi, you can tell that he's very passionate about the character of Shazam, about the character of Billy Batson, and he gives it his all. It just doesn't feel like Billy Batson as a character matured at all between the films, even though there was a significant time jump. They all look older. They have all been, the Shazam family for quite some time, and you can tell that he's trying to keep the family together. That's set up very, very early on, but then nothing is really done about it. They tease hints. Nothing significant happens, and it just lacks the tone and the fun and the charm of the first Shazam movie. It mostly deals with bad guys versus good guys, saving the world. We're doing all this instead of adjusting to the low stakes of the first movie. Not that the first movie had low stakes, but it feels like they went maybe a little too big, a little too bold with this, and focused a lot more on the monsters, the destruction, the whole family. And with that, they lose sight of what makes the first Shazam so special, and that's the character of Billy Batson. His, childish innocence, his love for being a superhero, and yet also his selfishness, his disconnect from the world because of his past. And I get that, he's evolved a little bit as a character. Sometimes it feels hard to feel that, and this movie kind of loses focus. You can tell it's a lot more interested in big CGI battles, CGI destruction, than it is with building the character of Billy Batson, and that was disappointing for me. I was really looking forward to seeing where they were going to go with that, and it just didn't do it for me. Speaking of CGI, I don't think the CGI in this movie is very good. At some points, there was a lot of green screen, you can tell, and effects that aren't done too well. Sometimes it's very good. I won't lie. That's why it's in the mixed category. Some of it was great. Some of it was pretty bad. But I feel like sometimes there were shots of Lucy Liu riding on a dragon that just looked bad. Just stuff like that. Small little nitpicks, nothing too big, but some of the effects on it just looked bad. But all the effects on the Shazam family and their costumes looked incredible. And I'd say that's more of a mixed positive for me instead of a mixed or a mixed negative. That made no sense, but whatever. And again, just kind of hammering home what I talked about in my tone rant explanation. The whole family focus gets a little too broad, and you're not able to really get characterization for all the characters outside of little caricatures. You get characterization for Freddy, you get characterization for Billy, but then the rest of them just feel like big characters that don't really go anywhere, don't really have a resolution at the end of the movie. And I feel like the end of the movie is a massive missed opportunity, a massive dropped ball that I'll talk about later on. But the tone definitely clashes with that here, and I just don't think that they really give a satisfying conclusion or a satisfying story beat for the whole Shazam family. Going into the negative here, the ending is really, again, just a massive clash of tone. There's an incredible fight sequence inside this massive dome where Shazam is using his electricity powers. It looks great, and he's finally powered up, but it just feels... It's hard to describe it because it concludes in a great way, and they do a great emotional beat with, everyone, and I was like, this is actually really good. I like the way they're ending this. And then, of course, in classic superhero fashion, classic superhero movie fashion, they just do away with it. They immediately are like, oh, the consequences of that are now gone. The final battle really had no consequences. It doesn't really matter. Also, here's a random fan service cameo that I didn't really enjoy. I mean, I was like, oh, nice. It's great to see that person. I mean, it kind of makes sense. It just feels so shoved in a little bit. I don't know. It really confused me. The ending of this movie really confused me, and it really bothered me. And I think that there was a better ending here with more stakes that maybe, again, could have fit the tone a little bit better. It would have ended on maybe a darker note, more solemn note. But I definitely think that it would have made me like the movie a little bit more. And that might just be me. The Shazam movies are great, innocent fun with a little bit of gruesome horror thrown in. But for the most part, I enjoyed it. Shazam 2 it's a fun time, I guess. I mean, it's nothing too crazy. Doesn't reinvent the wheel. If you liked the first one, you'll most likely like this one. For me, it's like a 6.5, 6 out of 10. Nothing too crazy. Nothing too bad, though. Again, I really enjoyed Dylan Grazer in this. He's like the saving grace of these movies. Not as good as the first one, unfortunately, and so for me, it was a little bit of a disappointment. Have you guys seen Shazam 2? If so, what did you think? Let me know down below in the comments. Did you like it more than Shazam 1? For the most part, I'm seeing that people favored this to Shazam 1. I'm a little confused by that, but that's just me. If so, what's your ranking of the Shazam movies? I guess for 2 of them, not really a ranking, but my name is Carter, and if you like this video, be sure to subscribe. I also am coming out with a Scream ranking, and if you saw Scream 6 last week, feel free to check out my review. As always, have a great rest of your day.